Hi, I'm Colin. I go by the username Stitchpocalypse here on YouTube and on Instagram. And this is my very first Flosstube video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are watching, I actually don't expect many people to watch this. And I'm going to do a whip parade, just like everybody does a whip parade in their first video. I'm going to talk a little bit about my stitching. I'm going to talk a little bit about my process, particularly less so my like actual stitching process and more so the like ideas that are kind of floating around in my brain and about sort of the world and about my life and about, I mean, I guess politics too, but not in like I hope not in an embarrassing way or like a cringe way, but certainly the political climate, particularly here in America, heavily influences my life, and it would be kind of crazy to pretend like the choices I'm making aren't influenced by the things that are influencing my life. That's not to say I'm stitching like woke activist work, but it is more to say that like there are certain ideologies that I think are important in terms of what I'm choosing to stitch and how I'm choosing to stitch it. Basically what I'm saying is I'm probably never going to stitch anything with a Confederate flag. That's kind of the extent of it. I'm actually never going to stitch anything with a Confederate flag. I'm 33. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with my partner Isaac, and I'm currently in school. So in the end of July of last year, Isaac and I moved here to Pittsburgh, specifically so I could go to school, to a school here. I'm from the area, but before we moved, he and I were living in Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah, I've been stitching for about 1.5 years. As an adult, I stitched as a child. Definitely my grandma stitched really regularly and taught me how to stitch, and the first things I was stitching were things with her, which were almost exclusively like the dimensions kits that you could get anywhere, and the simple sort of 90s things, because it was the 90s, and that has definitely informed some of the choices that I've made. I actually think I probably won't show much that is informed by it, because I finished 3 pretty substantial like dated pieces of that time. Yeah, so I'm gonna start with my whips and I'll talk through why I wanted to stitch them, what was going on in my life and in the world, and how I feel about it. I don't know. I have my computer, so the reason I'm looking down is because I have my computer and sort of a list of like where like this is my like planner and where I track all my stitching, and so I have it sort of right here. So if I'm like looking at it, I'll get better at this. I'll get better at it. Okay. My oldest whip, not my first whip, that I have is, oh, and I have my whips all down here, and I am not organized. I haven't done any ironing. Power to you if you're doing it, but like, I'm lucky if I can get out of bed, if I can get my homework done, if I can get to work, and I can get a little stitching in. So like, if you want to put like ironing and no, which honestly is crazy. I think this was like the 3rd thing I ever started. Is this, which is The Beast by Long Dog Sampler. I'm stitching it on 40 count antique white linen by Soie, and I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to talk through a little bit about, oh, lost a floss. So this is how much of it I have done. So I have 1 whole band finished, and then I also have half of the 2nd band, and then a few letters from the 3rd band. At the time, I have a book here that I'm going to talk about, so whatever. At the time, I had just finished Revolutionary Demonology by Gruppo. I'm gonna pull it up on the camera. I am telling you that I really like this book, and like it's very important to me, and it like really kind of has informed my worldview and like changed my life and the way that I think about stuff pretty substantially. But I like cannot, I like don't really, I'm not recommending it. Like, if you hear about it and you think it's interesting, or you look it up and it's interesting, you should read it. If not, don't. Don't read it. You won't get it. Also, like, okay, so here it is. This is Gruppo de Non, Revolutionary Demonology. They were a Italian sort of anonymous anarchist group who was like reorienting Satanism and demonology and like accelerationism for, I don't want to say activist purposes, but like reacting to sort of the far right turn of satanic worship. Which I guess if you guys don't know that's happening, it actually is happening, and a lot of the far right symbols have been co-opted by satanic groups, and a lot of satanic symbols have been co-opted by far right extremist groups. Basically, this was them attempting to like respond to that and react to that. It is like very much an academic book. Anyway, I was reading it. I read it, and it was very good, and it really kind of sparked something in me and my thinking about my feelings about organized religion and my feelings about sort of power structures within organized religion and the way they're expressed. And I think at the time I was trying to stitch some of those ideas and some of those thoughts kind of into my piece, and that's like why I got this and like how it started. I would say most notably, I have been thinking a lot about the way that like the church attempts to like control. Beyond that, particularly like the printing press, and the printing press is a tool for communicating new information to people who otherwise like wouldn't be accessible to at the time, and how the church was so intensely opposed to the printing press because even though the only thing that was really being printed was like the Bible and religious tracts, they truly felt that like citizens of, I guess, Germany were straying from the proper path by reading. Sorry, we're really starting off strong. We are really starting off crazy. And so one of my goals was to kind of make this look like a stamped, like it had almost been stamped by a printing press. So that's why I chose this like dark color. And then I just want to say, I don't think this works. I don't think it works. I don't think that the things that I was trying to do with it are happening successfully, at least so far in it. I haven't worked on it in months, I think. Honestly, I don't even know when I last worked on this. I haven't worked on it in a while, and I don't think it works, but I do think it's pretty. And while I would like everything I stitch to be meaningful and special and important and radical and blah, like, sometimes pretty's enough. Sometimes the fact that it looks good is enough for me. And yeah. So that's The Beast by Long Dog Sampler. I am going to change out the quote. So basically anything that has a quote, I'm always going to change out that quote. And so it has like 2 quotes here at the bottom. Ooh. And I'm changing that out. I don't know what to what yet. I might do it from something from the book, but I don't know. It feels a little on the nose. And it also feels a little like, I don't think it works. So if it's not working, why would I do it from something that I think maybe is not working? It looks good though. So the stitching is good, although my stitching has gotten quite a lot better since I started this, and since I worked on this last, that I would say my stitching is quite a lot cleaner. Yeah, so that's The Beast. Ooh, I keep dropping stuff. Sorry. That's The Beast by Long Dog Sampler. And I keep everything in these, I don't even know what to call them. They're kind of just vinyl. They're not vinyl, but they're some kind of see-through envelope. My second oldest whip is much more wholesome. So, you know, yin and yang. My second whip is, where's the cover? It's a printout of a PDF. Oh, there it is. And it's a black and white printout. So sorry to everyone who loves their color printouts. It is Everflowering Garden by Forest Embroidery. This is also crazy as like I think it was like the fourth thing I ever started. This is psychotic. I want to be clear, like, this is me showing you this is like a symptom of my severe mental illness. I am, however, I'm gonna show you that cover again. Actually, I'm just gonna put it in the, I'll just like put it, I am removing some sections. I'll sort of, if I can figure out how to do it, I'll outline it. To make this be a sampler for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So it's gonna have their names, and it's gonna have a section about celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and I also don't quite know what I'm gonna write on it. I have a general, obviously their names and the date of their wedding and the date of their 50th anniversary are gonna be on it. And so I'm gonna do that. I have quite a lot of stitching on this dog. Oh, and it's stitched on 46 count cream linen, also from Zweigart. I basically only buy Zweigart linens because I'm lazy and a brand whore. And so this is how much I have done. Ooh. Let me fold this. Yeah, so this is how much I have done. So I have half of the top section, like complete, and a little bit more over here. I'm stitching it with the DMC conversion that they provide. If I had started this later in my time at stitching, I would probably choose different colors. I don't love a variegated floss, and obviously this was made for variegated floss because Alforest sells variegated floss. And I don't love it. No, I love this, but I don't love variegated floss. And I think I would have chosen things that are maybe more to my taste, but I think at the time, I don't even know if I realized that that was like a thing that was acceptable. I guess I did. I think I felt trapped by the colors, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, and so I'm going to do it. And so I'm doing it, and it looks good, but I think if I were doing it again, I would choose different colors. This is the only one that I have a consistent plan in terms of what and how much I stitch on. I do 3 motifs and 3 strands of border every month. And the goal is that it'll be done by my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, which is in 2029. It's too many stitches, but I'm doing it. So, yeah, so that is Everflowering Garden, which I have renamed Parents' Anniversary Sampler because creativity is my middle name. Oh, another, honestly, I really do like exclusively stitch huge stuff with like the occasional small. I guess that's something to keep in mind, is that like I'm only stitching things that are really big. I find myself drawn to the bigness of them. I think there's a lot more potential for like interesting things to happen on a big sampler because there's so much more that can happen on a big sampler because it's big. It's CRS 1713 from Hicks Creates. I have done all of this side and some of the middle, and then I just have this little bit to do. I am stitching the whole thing, and I'm stitching this mostly on the called for floss. I think there are like 2 color, I mean the called for DMC, something this huge, I just like cannot justify the expense of silks because it is just so big. I think it's like 860 stitches tall. And this is the first part, and there are 4 parts of it. I am stitching it on a piece of fabric that I got at a fabric store in Providence called Lorraine's. It is not technically a cross stitch like it's not made for embroidery. It just like is a fabric with mostly even weave on it. And that's my progress on it. Oh. I hope when it's finished, I'm going to use it as a table runner. When it's done, I'm going to use it as a table runner. I might have already said that. I also fell into a kind of interesting, I'm going to flip this upside down so you can see it, thing with this motif, the Lamb of God, which is just a little lamb that's kind of holding a flag. Miss CRS, whoever she is, stitched it with a cute little pink flag and hat, although it probably was red and now has been charted in the faded colors. This is, I really love this project and I love working on it, and I've gotten quite a lot of stitching done on it. I started this one in April, and so I've only been, oh, and another thing I need to say, one, I moved in July. Moving is stressful, moving is awful. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and I basically didn't stitch for like 3 weeks in July and 2 weeks in August because moving was such hell. And then also, I had kind of a reckoning with things in November, just like because of the election and the political climate and all that kind of stuff, where I just like didn't stitch, where I just like really felt in my heart that stitching like, I guess referenced back to a time that I have absolutely no desire to reference and to aspire to and to want. I'm not interested in being nostalgic in that way. And I don't yearn for the past. And so I think that I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, basically I'm not nostalgic and I don't yearn for the past. And I think that I actually, because of it, I've started doing more reproduction samplers, which I know probably doesn't make a lot of sense to people. The idea that I don't want it to be like the past, and so I'm recreating the past. But I think the way I've started working with reproduction samplers is in many ways I'm trying to subvert the past, or I'm trying to appropriate the past for like my own desires and my own goals. And that's why this is probably the last. Oh, I know why I'm saying it. The colors are very like mature and classy on this. And kids are trashy. And honestly, I'm trashy. I don't feel compelled to have great taste. I don't feel compelled to have everything be like the most beautiful, mature, put together color palette, so I'm not doing it anymore. And so this actually kind of ends me. Basically what I'm saying is after this point, I'm doing all color conversions for my samplers, and they are much more garish. They are much more extreme in the colors they're doing, except for the most recent one that I stitched because it's already incredibly garish and kind of insane. Oh, and the Lamb of God. When I was so this summer, I fell down kind of a hole with the Lamb of God. I was in Sweden with my family. Well, we went to Norway and to Sweden. And when I was in Sweden with my family, first of all, the trip was terrible. I don't need to tell you all my family drama. I don't need to tell you my family drama. So I'm not going to. Anyway, I was off on my own in Gothenburg. And there was a church there that had this motif in stained glass. And I mean, it was all over. And just about how it like has been used at various times in history to like justify different things. So like it was a symbol of the Crusades, and it was kind of used as a symbol to show you supported the Crusades, and that you, I don't feel like it's controversial to say that the Crusades were probably bad, but certainly looking back, I think we can look at the things they were doing and say, I'm not so sure about that one. But then also like it had been appropriated by one of the British kings, and I just think there's something interesting about this specific symbol, right? Not just the Lamb of God, not just a lamb as a symbol of God, but like a lamb holding a flag, wearing a hat, with its head turned and like its foot like this. I think there's something kind of really exciting about the way that has been used for a variety of purposes. And I think it made me think more about the way that I'm using symbols and I'm using motifs, and like, just because, and I think just because I'm using a motif doesn't necessarily mean that I am supporting the way other people are using it. But I do think you kind of have to make that clear in the stitching. And I don't think I have a solution for how to do that, and I don't think I found it yet, but I am working on it, sort of. Well, I'm thinking about it, and I will continue experimenting. My problem is, all the things I do as like experiments are huge, because I stitch mostly big stuff. And so then they never get finished, and then I get mad at them, because like, the whole point of experiments is like most of them don't work, right? It's like a tool you use to gain information for a later date. And so, but then I have this huge piece, whatever. I'll show you one that really is, I don't know. Oh, I'll show it to you right now. Okay, so my next oldest whip, which I started June 1st. You've seen it, I've seen it, everyone's seen it. Fruits of Plenty by Wonderful Embroidery. Who hasn't stitched it? Me. I mean, I'm stitching it, but you know. And particularly for this one, I was really enjoying the way that, particularly CRS, felt, and the way that the stitches created kind of a textural experience onto the fabric. And then I was thinking about how the visuals of the stitching kind of took away, I guess, maybe not took away, but like hid a stitch, particularly a puffy stitch, as like a thing you could feel, that it wasn't just a thing to look at, but you could actually feel the stitches, and you could feel the motifs and the patterns and the symbols with your hands, with the stitches. And also, I don't even know if this will show up on camera, I think when people talk about like tone on tone, I find it to be like, okay, sure. And I just had this like idea in my brain. I was just like, what if I just stitch white on white? And the whole thing was just white on white. It's just so stupid. How do the stitches work if you actually can't see them all that well? And so, of course, like a normal person, I was like, well, why don't I pick a huge project to do, a gigantic fucking project to do these kinds of experiments on? I have, like, this much done. Like, I have done almost none of it. Oh, you cannot see that at all. Yeah, so I'm doing it in 2 colors actually, which I think is also a thing that has made me a little bit frustrated. I don't know where my, I'm doing it in Blanc and Acryl. Oh, I'm like a makeup YouTuber. But yeah, so I'm doing it in these 2 colors, which look very different here. But on the fabric, I mean, they look more different here than they do on the camera. This does not show up on camera at all. Maybe a little bit. I guess you can see it a little bit, which honestly makes me kind of upset. And it's why I'm kind of upset with this one. And it's another one where I'm not sure that the experiment works. This one is my fault. I think that I actually was like unwilling to commit fully to this idea of like white on white. And because I was concerned that it like would be really annoying to stitch, which it is. It's really annoying to stitch. I'm stitching this on, I didn't tell you what I was stitching this on. I'm stitching this on linen. Swigert, obviously. 36 count, antique white again. This was when I was deep in my antique white era. I am kind of in my flax era now. But yeah. Oh, and also I am kind of once I have this idea in my mind, I actually just like need to do it immediately. The idea of like having a concept in my mind and then not being able to like do it right now makes me want to die. And that means that sometimes I'm a little careless with the choices that I make. And this one in particular, the fabric's too small. The fabric's really small. And so if you see this, I mean, you can't see it. That's the whole fucking point. You can't see it. If you see this over here, yeah, there, it's not supposed to be that close to the heart. And I have like, I'm trying to like squish it in. And then, so like basically what's happening is like these are gonna come inward and be more even with the heart. Like close, like just a couple stitches from the edge of the heart instead of having all of this in here. And then I'm gonna figure it out from there. But am I gonna figure it out? I'm not actually sure I'm gonna figure it out from there. I'll keep working. I'm gonna keep working on this. I just think for me, I learned what I needed to learn from it, which is that the textural stitching is really cool and does have like really interesting uses that I probably will use in the future. And I also learned that maybe you don't need to start a gigantic piece to learn that information. Maybe I could have just stitched a couple motifs from it and then said, oh, that's all I needed to know. But I didn't, and I started this, and that's what's happened. I am dropping everything. I'm so sorry. I'm sure the people who are like mad about zippers and crinkling are like, they've actually died. I've actually killed them by accident, if they're even watching this. And then I started having fun. And then after that, I started having fun with my stitching. I said, I want to get stupid. And so I started this as part of the Bring Out Your Kit Sal, hosted by the Thread Gremlins and Jen's Fiberweb. This is Clown Dreams, designed by Susan Ives, released by Designwork. It's like a vintage kit that I found on eBay. It is I think like a homeless clown. Come on. I don't know. It won't focus in. You see what it is. It's, yeah, and so he has like patches and whatever. And basically I just like felt my stitching was getting a little too serious. Particularly that Fruits of Plenty one was like very chaste. It was very like, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm stitching it on this terrible Ada that it came with, with the called for flosses. I mean, with the flosses that were included in the kit. This is how much I have done. I actually have quite a lot of progress on this. I'm really happy with the amount of work I've done with this, and my stitches look really good. But I hate stitching on Ada, so it's one of those things, like, it probably looks better, but I actually don't care because I like don't like stitching on it. Yeah, so I've done like his head and his hat, and I've done his two little clown friends. I think the Sal was really good for me because it like gave me permission to stitch things that were maybe more unconventional and stitch things that were maybe outside of the like classic American schoolgirl sampler, trendy designer, kind of like whatever. Obviously, I mean, you'll see I haven't escaped from the trendy designer, the prison of the on-trend designer. I think it was, yeah, it was good for me. It just made me feel like, oh, it's okay to be kind of stupid. And it's fun to be stupid. It's fun to be stupid. I'm not even sure I have any stitches done on this. So my next oldest stitch is Camel and Lion by the Scarlet Letter. I stitched on this for like maybe a couple days. I mean, I wouldn't have put it in here if oh yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. What a mess. That's how much I have stitched. I think I saw everyone doing like a peacock, a unicorn, and a badger, and I didn't like it that much. But I like the idea of it. Like, I thought it was cute, but like I don't care about a peacock. And I don't really care about a unicorn. But for me, that lion is freaky. Also, I have concerns. I'm probably gonna stitch the mouth a different color. I don't love the idea of this black lion face with these big red lips. I have concerns. And so I think I'm gonna do it a more pink mouth. But I love that camel. I don't give a shit about a unicorn, but I love that camel. But I haven't stitched on it at all because I don't know. Because I think I started at like, oh yeah. I started it 2 weeks before we moved. So I stitched on it for a couple days and I packed it up in a suitcase and I have never taken it out since. Oh, it's stitched on, I think 46 count. Yeah. It's stitched on 46 count raw linen. So unbleached, undyed, just straight up linen. It'll probably be about this big. And I'm not stitching the background. So I'm not doing that. But yeah. That one, I don't have any plans on working on this like anytime soon. So like, will I even work on it this year? I mean, probably a couple days, but it just is, I don't know. It's like not something that I feel really like, I feel like I'm really reaching for. It's not something I feel really like drawn to. I think it's cute. I think it's pretty, but I think I have some things that are cute and pretty and also meaningful. And I would much rather do that. Oh. Okay. This one I started for my birthday this year. I wanted to learn a new skill. And my partner Isaac had gone out, before he had left Rhode Island, he had gone out to lunch with a friend. And this person was saying that they we're starting a queer commune with all their like HVAC tech friends, and they're all just like trans and gay and honestly probably sleeping with each other, but because they needed to like build up a community of people who have skills because the world is collapsing. Stitchpocalypse, you know? And so they felt the need to have transferable skills. I don't necessarily feel that way. I don't necessarily feel compelled to have skills for when the apocalypse ends, because I just feel like I'm probably gonna die. I don't know what's going on down there. My downstairs neighbors were being weird. Basically, it would be nice to survive the apocalypse, but I don't think that's a realistic for me. But I did want to learn a new skill. And the skill that I'm learning, I guess I haven't completely learned it, but I am learning from this, is darning. Because this is a darning sampler from Reflet Soie. This is Anno 1817. I am stitching it with my own conversion of Splendor silks from Rainbow Gallery. I got these at a local needlework shop called Needlepoint Breeze, which is good if you're into like painted needlework. They didn't have any cross-stitch patterns or any cross-stitch fabric. They did not have all the DMCs. They had a lot of Rainbow Gallery, which I had never heard of, and it's stitching nice, but I'm not obsessed with it. And yeah. Oh, and I'm stitching it huge. It's on 32 count. It's a printed fabric. I don't know, maybe like smoky white by Zweigert. And yeah, it's like gigantic. Can you see? I'm breaking out the board. So I got the whole top border done. Actually, no. I'm missing two motifs on the top border. I need to not be covering my mouth. I'm worried you can't hear me. I'm missing two motifs on the top border over here. But I did start on one of the darning things, and it looks so cute. It looks really cute. Yeah, and I'm stitching it 1/2. It's another one. It's going to be huge. It's going to be gigantic. It's a pretty big pattern that I'm stitching on 32 count. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to, and it was my birthday. And if you're not doing stuff you want to do on your birthday, then what are you doing? Like, what's the point? Just don't have the birthday. Just die. I mean, don't. I'm gonna get canceled for my first Flosstube video. Anyway, this is Anno 1817 by Reflet Soie. I love Reflet Soie. I feel like the American people on Flosstube are not talking about Reflet Soie anywhere near as much as they should. But this is a good pattern. I'll show you the colors I have chosen. So basically my goal was, right, both to learn a new skill, and also I was thinking a lot about how like kids have terrible taste and about how I have terrible taste, and I really wanted the colors to be much more extreme versions of even what the girl had originally stitched, because quite frankly dyes are probably a lot better now, and you can probably get colors that are a lot more pumped up, even though I guess by 1817 they were using like lead, like arsenic in their dye, and so it was probably very beautiful and tasted like a Pez candy. There's so much abundance in the world, and everything that exists I have access to. I mean, not everything, but you know what I mean. Oh. I put what the fabric is on the bag. It's a 32 count vintage smoky white. And basically I just wanted the colors to be more extreme versions of even what the girl had stitched originally, because it's my birthday and I can do what I want. These are the colors I've chosen. And I just think this blue is crazy. Those people downstairs are... The orange is crazy too. I wonder if you guys can even hear that. I skipped one. I skipped a whip. Because this one, I started on my birthday in September. And now I'm looking at this pile, and there's one down here I know I started in July. And it's the only thing I have that's a whip, that's like a small. I did finish, well, maybe that one too. But I did finish a collection of smalls that I've been working on kind of all year, last week. And so I don't really have any smalls going right now, except for this. Which is Flamingle Bells by Hands On Design. I'm doing it in my own DMC conversion on also terrible fabric, horrible fabric. It is stitched on 28 count Charles Craft linen. These are the colors I'm doing. And here it is. Let me make sure I show you the right one because there's two on here. And right on a fold too. I have all three of the patterns and I have stitched one of them already, which was Flamingle Bells. And then I'm doing, no, this is Flamingo. This is Flamingo. And then Flamingle Bells, which is what I'm working on now. And there's a third one that I haven't started. And it will also be done on this fabric with these same colors. It's fun. I don't know. It's Christmas, you know? At Christmas, I want to be dumb and fun. Is Peroy by Stacy Nash Designs from the Animal Crackers series. He's a cutie. He's a little cutie. I'm not going to do all the Animal Crackers because I don't like them all. And I think some of them are kind of ugly in a way that isn't cute. They're ugly in a way that's ugly. He is cute in a way that's ugly. He's a cutie. Oh. And there's another one on here. So, like, you're going to be looking at, I'm going to cover it up. But this is how much I have done of him. So I have stitched kind of I'm having trouble with the mirror image. I just feel like, also my bookshelf is right here. There's going to be a new setup for the next Flosstube video if I film another Flosstube video. And so I've done kind of all of the grass and then a little bit of his stomach and a little bit of his back, and you can kind of see. And this is done in my own conversion of Verswa Silk 103s. Yeah, anyway, so that's what I've done. It's still in the Q-snap because I just keep it in the Q-snap because it's just a Q-snap size piece of fabric. And then you can also see I did Miss Hazel, also from the Animal Crackers, Stacy Nash Animal Crackers. She's a cutie, but a little more severe. That's how much of Peroy I've done. I'm gonna show you my colors. And so this is kind of like what I'm working off of. This is not my whole selection of 103s, but these are the ones that I picked out for these Animal Crackers conversions. There's, yeah. And I am not stitching his bow tie in blue. I felt like it matched too much to Miss Hazel. And so I'm going to be stitching his bow tie in red and pink. No, I'm not. I'm going to be stitching his bow tie in these two colors. Makeup YouTuber. Which are everyone's favorite 664, everyone's favorite red. If you're not using 664, you're not living. And then another color, 160, that I've never heard anybody talk about. Yeah, and so those are kind of what I'm doing. I have like maybe 5 of the Animal Crackers patterns. I've done Miss Hazel, and then I also did Bobbin, which is the little mouse holding a needle. But I turned that into a Christmas ornament and gave it to a friend who had a baby last year, and it was a little Christmas ornament celebrating her baby's first Christmas. Was feeling very trapped by classic American schoolgirl samplers, but I also felt very compelled to do reproduction samplers because I think there's something there for me. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm sort of working through it. And this is not an experiment. This is something I'm not experimenting with. This is just something I'm stitching. And I like it because it's crazy. This is Franzi, 1870. Another one by Reflet Soie. Y'all need to be talking about this. I love that dog. And right now I'm just kind of stitching this sort of thing. I just started this last week. And I am going to show you my progress. Miss Franzi was crazy. She was packing these motifs in, and they don't look that good together. And I love her for that. And so this is what I have done. This is another one. I don't know why. A huge reproduction sampler. I want to stitch on like the largest count. I mean, I guess 28 count exists. I'm sure like 20 count exists. But I want to stitch it on a big count. And so I'm stitching this on 32 count flax, Zweigart linen, 2/2 with mostly the called for DMC. One of the problems with this pattern is that when they converted it from the Everflowering silks to the DMC, they made at least one mistake, and I mean, I haven't done that much of it. I've done like maybe this much. And so there is like one mistake in terms of the conversion, and so I am using a different color so like the black, well, I guess it's not black, it's a dark brown. The color that they said to stitch it. What's this? And like, girl was crazy, and she was stitching some interesting motifs and stuff on here that, particularly this chain, it bends in a way that I'm like, you were not planning on using that for anything other than to look pretty on the sampler. And that is funny to me. It was not a tool for her. She just thought it was cute. And I respect that. Anyway, so basically what I did is I picked another warm, very dark brown and just stitched it in there to make it look more like the colors it's supposed to be. This also is me sort of putting my foot down about symmetrical samplers. I have no desire to stitch a symmetrical sampler. I think that the world that we live in, at least my world, and at least living in a city and interacting with a variety of people, the world is really chaotic, and it's kind of like everything is happening kind of all the time, and it's kind of a mess. But I think it is also really beautiful. And so for me, I think like a symmetrical, like sparse, very like open sampler, that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's like not the world I live in, right? I'm not living in like, I'm not a Puritan. I'm not someone who like loves chastity and purity and whatever. And so it would be crazy to be stitching stuff like that for me. If that's the world, if that's the world you live in, power to you. But that's not my world. And so I don't want to stitch on a symmetrical sampler. And I do want to stitch on stuff that is bolder, more extreme, brighter, louder, crazier, more motifs, more whatever, more. And so this was like really important to me to start and to work on. And I think this is going to be kind of my like, I don't want to say main piece, but the one that I'm kind of reaching for the most this year, just because I look, I generally think the world is collapsing. And I like the idea of stitching something that looks really bright and really bold and incoherent at a time when I feel like the world is also feeling like that. Sorry. Like, sorry to all of you who are like, my world's so sweet and soft. Like, I'm happy for you, but that ain't got nothing to do with me. I actually think I'm good. I think I've shown you all my whips. That's kind of everything. Thank you for watching if you did watch. Thank you for commenting if you comment. Even if you comment hate messages that I'm reading books about. Oh. I do want to say this. Everyone needs to read this. If you are doing cross stitch, if you are making craft work, you need to read The Beauty of Everyday Things by Soetsu Yanagi. It rocked my world. This is something I'm recommending to everyone who's watching this video. If you made it through an hour and 20 minutes, only an hour and 2. If you made it through an hour and 2 minutes of some lame-o gay as Flosstube in Pittsburgh, you need to be watching this. Reading. Yeah. He's just writing about craft work. He's just writing about the kinds of work that regular people, the kind of objects that regular people are making to be used by regular people, right? It's not luxury decorative arts. It's not a Birkin. It's a cup. It's a teapot. It's a sampler. Okay. I'm good. Thanks for watching. Bye.